Maybe you used to be really ambitious, the woman doing it all, the boss babe, the one who thrived on big goals, built a career, managed family life, and still had energy for workouts and social events. But now you feel flat, drained, unmotivated. Well, you're not imagining it, and you are certainly not alone. There are reasons that this happens, and I'm going to break it down today. But before we get into hormones and the physical reasons, I want to acknowledge something. Collectively, we are freaking exhausted. We're living in a time where the news is one tragedy after another. Social media makes it feel like watching somebody suffer is just another type of content that we just scroll past. We are normalizing traumatic events. Families are divided, friendships are strained, and we're still carrying all the responsibilities of midlife. Raising kids, caring for parents, managing careers, keeping our homes in tip-top shape, meal prepping, working out, and doing everything we can to support our health. It's no wonder why so many women just want to lay down, quit their job, or disappear for a while. That isn't weakness, it's burnout stacked on top of a shifting body. And I feel it too. I really, really do. Last week I shared how I needed to increase my own progesterone dose because I'm feeling more stressed, more irritable, and worrying more than usual. But it's no wonder why. All of this is too much for us to handle. And as a business owner who utilizes social media, I'm finding it harder and harder to show up there in an attempt to protect my mental health and nervous system. This is a big reason why I started the podcast, not only to reach more of you so that you get the education that you need to support yourself, but it also allows you to avoid some distractions like on social media and to focus and listen or watch if you're following along on YouTube with more context versus those small sound bites or clips that are on social media where the message tends to get lost. So my promise is to continue to show up here for you, even in the midst of chaos, and do my best to bring value. So please do leave a rating, review, and share this with other women who need support. Now, let's talk about what's happening physically in your body. As you know by now, hormones are not just about reproduction. They run your brain chemistry, your energy, your drive, and so much more. So when estrogen dips, you lose the brain boosting effects that it has on serotonin and dopamine. Those are your feel-good neurotransmitters. So that means lower mood, lower energy, and even less resilience. Testosterone is not just about sex drive or your libido. It's about ambition, motivation, competitiveness, and that get shit done type of energy. So when it's low, you stop feeling that fire to chase your goals. And then there's progesterone, which is calm and stabilizing. But when it's too low, you feel anxious and restless. And when it's too high or not balanced properly with estrogen, you can feel sedated, flat, and almost apathetic. So if you've been feeling like a shadow of yourself, like you're watching your ambition fade, it's not all in your head. Your hormones are literally influencing how motivated you feel, and it can show up as boredom with your career, lack of excitement, even disinterest in hobbies or things that used to bring you joy. But here's the bigger question. Is this really a lack of motivation, or is it a wake-up call? For so long, many of us have been burning the candle at both ends, proving our worth, over-functioning, hustling, chasing money to buy things that we don't really need, or running ourselves ragged for approval. What if midlife is the point where our body says enough? What if this is less about losing drive and more about creating a life that actually feels good to you instead of one that just looks good on paper? As I've shared on previous episodes, the last year or so, I've really been reflecting on my own life and business. I used to think success meant building a bigger business, hitting higher revenue, adding more team members. But I realized I was draining myself to keep up with the thousands of dollars in expenses every month. Complicated platforms, systems, and payroll. I felt like I was on a freaking hamster wheel just to keep things running, and it wasn't fun anymore. So I cut back. I simplified. I stopped trying to run my business like some big corporation and brought it back to what feels sustainable and good to me, not what somebody else is doing or telling me to do. And guess what? The business is still successful. Women are still being served. I'm reaching even more of you with the podcast, but I'm no longer killing myself to cover costs. At the same time, I started prioritizing myself again, aiming for more sleep, spending more time with Mike, scheduling date nights, connecting with nature, going for longer walks without my phone, and even finding joy in small things like an adult coloring book after dinner a few times per week. Mike and I recently went to a new Barnes & Noble store that opened up by us, and I bought a Halloween themed coloring book, and I love it. It sounds silly, but it's very grounding and calming to me. And yes, I've also been reassessing my physical health, of course, especially my hormones. I'm on estrogen and progesterone, and I've shared that I was on testosterone for about a year, but it just made me feel androgenic, and I didn't notice enough positive benefits, so I stopped that for a bit. But for some women, testosterone can really help with their motivation and drive. So personally, I'm going to try a DHEA cream from a company called Ona's Natural. I've mentioned them before. DHEA is kind of like a mother hormone, if you will, that converts into testosterone or estrogen. And normally in the past, I've steered women away from just using that because we don't know what it will convert into. I typically just say, go to the source. If you need estrogen, get some estrogen. If you need progesterone, take some progesterone. If you need testosterone, take testosterone. But my hope is that my body will recognize which hormone is low, and in my case, it is testosterone currently based on testing multiple times, and convert it properly. The body is smart, and I don't believe we give it enough credit. Now, the dose from this particular brand is a little higher than other DHEA options on the market. And yes, you can actually buy this over the counter without a prescription. So I will link to the one that I'm using in the show notes. But I like this brand in terms of the quality. I like the founder's story, how she really helped support her own health by using progesterone at high doses. And I mentioned I like that they use adequate dosing for their progesterone creams, especially, which is very hard to find in an over-the-counter brand. Most of them are way too low dose and can actually make you feel worse instead of better. So anyway, I'm starting low and slow with the cream, and I'm just going to see how I respond to it. I'm hoping that I don't experience androgenic symptoms again, like oily hair, oily skin, a deeper voice, all things that I did notice when I was on testosterone cream, even though I wasn't using a really high dose. What I'm hoping for is that I do feel a little more energetic, a little more motivated, a little more pep in my step, if you will. Some women don't experience androgenic symptoms at all when they start testosterone. They may feel really good, again, with more drive, more motivation, more energy. But like I always say, we are all unique, and HRT is a process that requires patience. So much patience. So my goal isn't really to push myself into overdrive again. I want a bit more energy, like I said, steady motivation, and not in an aggressive, overly ambitious energy where I end up overdoing it like I have in the past. So getting back to you, if you're feeling unmotivated, here are some things to consider. Assess your hormones. You don't need some fancy hormones test. Blood work is sufficient, and it's how we help our clients determine their needs. We look at markers like estradiol, total and free testosterone, DHEA, SHBG, and so on. The data, along with symptom assessment, really does help us create a personalized plan for you in terms of next steps. The other thing is really thinking about simplifying your life. Cut back where you can. Ask, does this drain me or energize me? How am I spending my time and energy every day? Something Mike and I are playing with is no phones at night and one day on the weekend. Basically, where we'll keep our phones upstairs or in a different area where we are and turned off, where we are really focusing on each other. The other thing is prioritizing rest. I say this over and over again. Sleep and rest are just not optional in midlife. We need it. Treat it like medicine, even if it's a nap because you didn't get a full night of sleep the night before. Then there's finding joy, small joys in life, whether it's a hobby, coloring, like I have found, gardening or reading, things that calm and ground you. Do more of that. And then lastly, redefine success. It doesn't have to mean constant growth or what others are doing or competing. It can mean sustainability, peace, simplifying like I have, and putting energy into what matters the most to you. So here's what I want you to remember. If you've lost your motivation, you're in a new season, one that asks for a different type of support, both physically and emotionally. Listen to your body. If you're ready to get your energy and drive back in a way that feels more aligned with this stage of life, this is what we help women do inside the Perimenopause Method program. We look at your hormones, your minerals, your lifestyle, and your overall health so that you can stop dragging yourself throughout the day and start feeling like you again. Check out the link in the show notes as always. And if this episode resonated with you, please do share it with another woman who needs to hear it. Thanks so much for listening, and I will see you next time. Hey, before you go, if you want to know the 10 things that I do every day to improve my energy, mood, and maintain a healthy weight in perimenopause, grab my free resource, Perimenopause Daily Checklist, via the link in the show notes. You'll learn my daily morning and evening rituals, how I reduce overwhelm and get stuff done, how to structure meals to feel good, and much more. Perimenopause doesn't have to be such a struggle. Let's flip the script so you can feel and look your best. The information provided is for educational and informational purposes only. I am not, nor do I act as a doctor or any other medical professional. I am not providing healthcare, medical services, or attempting to diagnose, treat, prevent, or cure any physical, mental, or emotional disease or condition. The information shared is not intended to be a substitute for the professional medical advice provided by your own medical or mental health provider.